Good morning. I'm Larry Lawler. I'm the National Director of the American Society of Tax Problem Solvers, and I'm just coming to you this morning with a short message having to do with IRS scams that are taking place. And this is people who are scamming taxpayers and citizens in the name of the IRS. And there's several new scams out there. I just want to give you a quick look at them, make sure you're familiar with them and you're aware of them as far as talking to your clients or you're talking to other professionals, that sort of thing, because now they're actually starting to target professionals as well. And there's some very serious transgressions going on here that you really do need to know about. This is not going to be a continuing education credit program. It's very short. Should be done with it in probably 20-25 minutes. Got to get it done and get it going because we're trying to get prepared for the spring conference and the boot camp coming up in Baltimore, and 2 weeks later followed by the same thing in LA. So we're kind of squeezed for time, but we thought this was important enough to get it out to you right away. So we're going to get into this a little bit, but the first thing I want to share with you is that the IRS scams are kind of interesting because they do have a 100% rating for creativity. What they don't have is a 100% rating for honesty. They fall to 0 in that category. So they're really trying to take advantage of unsuspecting taxpayers who don't know how to deal with the IRS, don't know the things the IRS would do. And ultimately what ends up happening is that because of their fear of the IRS, they end up falling victim to these various scams that are taking place. So I put together a brief presentation to share with you some of the scams and what's going on now, and some of them are particularly aimed even at you. So I think it's important that you be aware of some of these things. Number one thing I'm talking about is the tax preparer phishing scam. And that one kind of concerns me because it's going after many of the people who are our members, are getting calls or getting some kind of an involvement with this. What they've been doing is they have been sending an email to a tax professional telling them that they have got to update their IRS e-services portal information and or their e-fins, their electronic filing numbers. And some practitioners have called and said, you know, is this something the IRS is doing? Is this something we should be responding to? The answer is absolutely not. Even though some of these things do look like they have direct links to the IRS in them. But I think what the scammers have done is they have added this link to the IRS, but they have it go through their system. And when it goes through their system, then they can use various approaches to gathering your information, such as recording your keystrokes as you make entries and things of that nature, or even scraping your data off. Or if you have a phony landing page and you have to enter any data, the landing page is really information going to the scammer. It has nothing to do with the IRS. IRS is not doing this. They are not sending out these kinds of updates, and you should not in any manner, way, shape, or form fall victim to them. In fact, you know, some of these emails appear to be coming from tax software companies. They're seeking information about refunds, filing status, confirming professional information, ordering transcripts, and even verifying PIN information, personal identification number information. Self-prepared returns using purchased home tax preparation software is also another target for this scam. So it's not just professionals, but it's anyone who might be using software as well and dealing with the IRS electronically. Emails are not generated by the IRS e-services program. You should disregard them, and you should not click on any of the links. As I said, even though the link may take you ultimately to the IRS website, it's the route that it goes through that's the problem, where they can gather your information along the way. So you want to make absolutely certain that you are not in any way being tricked into something that looks like an IRS update request. There is also, by the way, another one that is even worse in a way. It's an invasion type scam. And what's happening there is they're gaining access to a professional's computer. For example, a CPA, an enrolled agent who's preparing tax returns. They gain access to it through some form of malware that they've planted on your computer, and then they can actually prepare and e-file a tax return. And of course, in so doing, change the bank account deposit numbers, maybe even for one of your clients, and change the bank deposit number to their bank account. So there's a number of different approaches. That's one of the newer ones that's coming around, and it's starting to rear its ugly head, I've heard, on the West Coast mostly at the moment. but you can be sure it's going to go everywhere because these guys are very creative and very ambitious. They're just not very honest. And what they want to do is they want to capture all the different identity data, name, address, social security numbers, bank account information, that sort of thing. And they do often look like the IRS. They have duplicated the look and feel of the IRS type information. So they'll steal the IRS logo and put it on there, and they'll have information that makes them in every way appear to be an IRS type thing. And I don't want to see not only our members, but any professionals or tax preparers get caught by it, as well as taxpayers who are doing their own home software using TurboTax or all those various programs. So it's an area where it's a new type of an approach that these very creative spammers or hackers, if you will, are looking to get information so that they can scam people and end up with bank account information. The next one I want to talk about is the W-2 targeting scam. This is where they're going after payroll and human resource professionals. So we aren't exclusive as CPAs, enrolled agents, or attorneys who do tax work. They're also going after HR professionals. And this is a new and emerging one too. They will send the HR professional an email that appears to come from the CEO of the company, for example. So they do a little bit of research on a large company, find out who the CEO is, get as much information as they can on him, perhaps even find a way to get an email from him so that they can make the look and feel the same. And then they send an email to the HR department requesting a report of names, addresses, social security numbers, perhaps even earnings levels, lots of different information they could be asking for from human resources. And the human resources people responding to it, because it seems to be coming from the CEO of the company, are providing all this information to these scammers without even realizing that they're not dealing with their own chief executive officer. And again, they're going to have all kinds of personal information available to them to provide. So that's something we've got to be aware of. Let our HR professional clients and companies know that this is happening as well. There is another one that is kind of like that is where it's looking like it's the IRS, but it's now coming from the Taxpayer Advocacy Panel, or TAP as they call it. TAP is a volunteer board advising IRS on systemic issues. Now, the thing is, they never ever send out this type of information. They will not be sending unsolicited emails to taxpayers. But because of the name of it, the Taxpayer Advocacy Panel, it sounds like something that's helping taxpayers. And the source appears to be legitimate. It's nothing more than a phishing scheme. It's for personal and financial information. And by the way, if you're hearing from people who are getting these types of emails, or if you get them yourselves, what you want to do is you want to forward those emails to phishing@irs.gov. And phishing is spelled with, instead of an F at the beginning, it's PH at the beginning. So it's phishing@irs.gov. The plan there is for the IRS to collect as much of this information as they can to see if they can stop it somehow. I don't know if they're going to have a lot of luck doing that, because I'm sure most of it's coming from offshore places and things like that the IRS isn't going to get at very easily. But nonetheless, they do want you to forward these things to them. And the taxpayer advocacy scam is certainly nothing that's coming from the IRS. That panel does not ever solicit information from taxpayers, and they don't have any access to that kind of information. It's not part of their job. The next thing I want to talk about is another topic, has to do with the threatened legal action scam. And this is where they're using intimidation tactics. And this one's been around a little bit longer now. They get on the phone, they get very, very demanding, and they're looking for an immediate payment from the taxpayer, or they're going to have the police show up at their door. They're going to be arrested. They're going to have some kind of a legal action started against them. If they happen to be immigrants or recent immigrants, they may threaten them with deportation, loss of driver's licenses, business licenses, things of that nature. So they really can be very intimidating to the taxpayer, who is fearful of having problems, especially if they're new in our country and they are unaware of the fact that the IRS would never do something like this, wouldn't solicit information in this way. So that particular thing is taking advantage of somebody who really doesn't have any way of knowing any better. They're just particularly abusive to that particular group of individuals, the recent immigrants. The criminal calling, or the scammer, if you want to call him that, the criminal, claims to be an IRS agent. He will come up with a badge number, he'll come up with an ID number, and he will also claim to even have the tax return already, and they're just verifying information. And the fact of the matter is, of course, they don't have anything, but they're very clever with how they go about approaching it, and that opens the door for them to get the information that they want. In that same area, they will also have a caller ID that shows up on the taxpayer's phone that looks like it's coming from the IRS. They can scam that as well. So the caller ID is another thing that might fool the taxpayer into thinking they really are getting a call from the IRS. And like I said, they'll use badge numbers and titles of the IRS and so on. And they probably will already have the taxpayer's name and address, because that's information they can usually research and find somewhere. So this threatened legal action scam is one of the nastiest ones. The kind of information, by the way, that they're looking for in this area is they want to find Social Security numbers, bank account numbers, and they even care about getting dependent information. Why would you think that they want dependent information? Simply because of the fact that that is just one more name, Social Security number, that they can use to get improper loans, make purchases, things like that in someone else's name that has an identity that has some credibility to it. Of course, they're not the person whose identity it is, but nonetheless, they have a Social Security number that is real, a name that is real, an address that is real, and they can use that in some of their other scams that they promote. So I think it's important for you to be well aware of these different types of scams that are out there. Some of the things that you should know is the IRS is never, ever going to call and demand an immediate payment without first having mailed a bill. We all know that. We deal with these people all day long. They send out numerous letters to taxpayers before they actually start calling with demands and that sort of thing. They will also never demand a payment without giving an opportunity to either appeal it or question the dollar amount and that sort of thing. On top of that, they will never specify a particular form of payment. They won't say that it's got to be a value card, or it's got to be done on a credit card, or it's got to be done by wire transfer. The IRS does not tell taxpayers what method they must use to pay them. So when the taxpayers hear things like that, that immediately should be a flag that there's a scam going on. They will not ask for credit card numbers over the telephone, and the scammers do that all the time. They will not threaten to send the police to the taxpayer's home or have them arrested or commence legal action. These are all things that the IRS is never going to do, yet the scammers are doing it and intimidating people who just simply don't know better than the fact that the IRS would never do that. Now there's another one called the Update Your IRS e-file. It's a phishing scam, again, the phishing type phishing. It's an email that appears to come from the IRS, and it includes a link to an IRS lookalike site. And it'll say you've got to update your IRS e-file immediately. And the emails will use addresses like usa.gov or irsgov.com. In other words, they won't have the period between IRS and gov. It won't be irs.gov, which is a legitimate IRS website, but they will use irs.gov without the dot or the period in between them. And it makes it look like it's going directly to the IRS as well. And when the taxpayers fall for that one, they're really just simply contacting a website that belongs to the scammer once again. Question that many people say is, how prevalent is this? Is there really a lot of it going on right now? The numbers are actually astounding. In the period since October 2013 up until the beginning of 2016, there were some 896,000 phone scams contacts reported. Now those are the ones that are reported. Keep in mind that there are so many of these things that happen that people just ignore it, or they don't report what happened. Even if they were taken advantage of, they might not report it. So there's tremendous number, more than the reported ones out there. But again, 896,000 in that period of time is a considerable number. There's over 5,000 victims who've been collectively bilked out of $26.5 million as a result of this Update Your IRS File scam. So the numbers are huge as far as what these scammers are getting away with, and we've got to be on our toes to make sure that our clients and our fellow practitioners are aware of all these different things. Just this year alone, the IRS has seen over a 400% increase in the number of scam and phishing schemes that are taking place. So the bottom line of it is we've got to keep people on their toes, keep them aware. Now, I'd like to take just a minute here and say, don't slam the door on me, as my little friend on the screen here is showing you. I'll wrap it up in just a minute, but I have a special announcement for you that I want to make before we get all said and done, before the end of this presentation. So hang in there just a little bit longer. I know we've been on here for a little bit longer perhaps than I told you it would be at the beginning, but that's the way it goes. Like me, the IRS Commissioner has also received calls at home from these scammers. And I'll admit to spending some time in the conversation to do a little phishing on their tactics. I was kind of reverse phishing them, if you will. And I've had them call me at home, and I've talked to them. They are extremely good at what they do. They are very, very convincing, and they have answers for almost everything and every question you come up with. They really are good at what they're doing, and that's why they've been so successful at ripping people off. I've also received, by the way, a variety of these things, variations of them. The Robo-calls, where they call automatic, and if you answer the phone line goes dead. But if an answering machine answers, then they leave a message telling you that you've got to call back. Well, the point in doing that is when you call back, what happens is you end up with signaling to them the fact that you're a live one. They've got one here now that is calling me back. If they believed it was a scam and they were paying no attention to it, they wouldn't be calling back. So they like this robo-calling thing, and it also lets them leverage the technology. They can send out hundreds of thousands of calls and then respond only to the ones that call back into them. So it really is a kind of an onerous thing as far as taxpayers go. They get this message from the IRS and they call back, and the scammer knows that they've got a live one there. So they're pretty intent on growing their illicit enterprises by leveraging the technology and pre-qualifying, what we would call in marketing, what we would call pre-qualifying their clients, getting them to get the message and then respond to it by calling back. That's when you think about it, pretty good marketing on their part, but it's obviously also dishonest. When a taxpayer returns a call, they know they got a live one, and then they're going to get into their full pitch of intimidation or whatever their approach is on that particular one. Variations of these scams can be seen via text messages, and the communications are being reported in every single section of the country. These new tactics are capitalizing on taxes being the top of mind for people during the filing season, or here right close to the end of the filing season. And the taxpayers have a certain amount of fear of the IRS, and they're playing on that. They don't want to have problems with the government. So the taxpayer responds thinking that they're doing the thing, the right thing, what they should be doing. For us, we can report these things, or the taxpayers can report them to take to the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration at 800-366-4484, or on their IRS impersonation scam reporting webpage. They can go to the webpage, and there's a special section under TIGTA. You can also report them, by the way, to the Federal Trade Commission, and they have an FTC complaint assistant on ftc.gov, and the IRS telephone scam is what you put into the notes. That's what they want you to do to identify it. The thing they need to know, no matter what, is that this sounds too good to be true. It probably is. But there are so many things. There's new scams coming up, new ways of approaching it every single day. What I've done here is I've tried to highlight a few of them for you. But basically, there's going to be variations of it all over the place. So I just want you to be aware, and for the taxpayers to be aware, that the IRS doesn't make these kind of calls, and they don't call people about giving them a refund that they didn't know they had coming or anything of that nature. This is strictly a scam operation, and people are getting ripped off very seriously by it. So before that, before we just wrap it up, the one final thing I guess I want to mention to you is that we have the upcoming seminar on the spring conference in Baltimore with the boot camp running alongside it. The boot camp is on the 5th and 6th, and the spring conference itself, which we used to call advanced, is May 5th, 6th, and 7th. So there's 2 days of boot camp running alongside of it, and the attendees at the boot camp get to come over to the spring conference for the 3rd day while they're there, just as a courtesy to let them get familiar with what the spring conference, or what we used to call advanced, is, what it's all about. If you haven't gotten to it yet, or you missed the early bird discount, right now I'm going to extend that discount until Friday at 5 o'clock. And that gives you a couple more days in which to get the early bird discount, saves you $100. And I'm going to encourage you to come in. There's some great topics this year. It's all available on the website, astps.org. So just want to wrap up and give you a little commercial for our upcoming seminar. We've got some tremendous speakers, tremendous topics. Go take a look, see that they apply, and hurry up and do it and get your early bird discount. So that's pretty much all I wanted to bring to you this morning. Just a short little presentation to keep everybody aware of the IRS scams that are going on. So have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you in Baltimore.